Hello, my crafty friends. I'm needing to make some more clear gesso. I made some, 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember exactly when I first started um, doing crafty stuff, and I found out how expensive gesso was. I went on Amazon and bought me some of this powdered marble, and it's pH neutral, basic calcium carbonate used in making acrylic modeling place, glue-based gessos, and all water and dispersed oil paints. And oil dispersed paints. So it's an art thing. But I was surprised how cheap it was. I don't remember, but I think I got it for less than $7. Um, but there's enough in here to make a lot of gesso, especially this clear kind, because you don't put a ton of this in it to make the clear gesso, or it makes it a little bit cloudy. I don't remember where I got the recipe for this. I saw it somewhere way back when, and I think it was maybe someone on YouTube, but I'm not positive. It may have been in a book, because I looked at a lot of stuff way back then, and I was not sharing things on video or really sharing things with anyone else. I wasn't posting anything about how I did my stuff. And so I didn't think to write down who I got the information from, and I'm sorry. So whoever it was, I appreciate you giving me the recipe. I'm so sorry that I didn't credit you. But it worked great the first time, so I'm going to use that same recipe. I've got some paper here because I want to show you how cool it is. But the first thing I've got in here is 1/4 of a cup. This is a 2-cup, and 2 cups makes it full, so you don't want to do quite that much. But 1/4 of a cup of water, and I'm using distilled water because I happen to have it, and it's what I used last time. But I noticed in my notes that you don't have to use distilled water. The person who wrote it, that's what they used, and so that's what I used. But I know I used this one jar of clear gesso for a couple of years, and it never molded. It never did any weird, funky stuff on me. So since I had the distilled water, that's what I'm using today. And then, so 1/4 a cup of that, and then 1 cup of PVA white glue. Now, it does not have to be Elmer's glue all, but I've got that too. So that's what I'm using. Last time I didn't have this, and I used, let me see if I can find some of it. A real cheap glue I got at Hobby Lobby. Let me find it. It was one of these. White glue. It's Hobby Lobby's brand. So that's what I used last time. And I probably should go ahead and use it and finish off this bottle, but I'm not. I'm going to use the glue all, because I think if that worked well, this ought to work even better. So, and you want 1 cup of this. So I'm just going to pour this into here until it says 1 1/4 cups. That's pretty easy so far, huh? And then the last thing you add to it is the powdered marble. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, because right now the water's just sitting on top of the glue. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up before I add my powdered marble. Oh, I have a stick. Here we go. I'm going to mix it with a dowel rod. You can use a spoon or whatever if you want, but I had a dowel rod and I didn't have a spoon. I'm going to mix it really good, because I don't want to, when I go to mix in that powdered marble, I want it to be as easy as possible. So when you've got it, it just makes a thinner glue. It looks like it's about like maybe a little bit thinner than when you do an acrylic pour, but it's pretty thin. So it's 1 cup of glue, 1/4 a cup of water, and then 4 heaping tablespoons of this powdered marble. So you can see how long this 4 pounds of marble is going to last if it's if you only use 4 heaping tablespoons in this. Okay, this is not easy to get out, and I'm probably going to make a mess here. So I've got a little cup in there, and I think it'll be a little bit easier to do it out of that little cup. There's 1 heaping tablespoon, 2, 3. Let's add a little more to that one. Okay, 4. All right. It'll be it took a lot of self-control not to add more than that last time, I remember, because I thought that's just not very much for that whole container, but it worked well. So I'm going to stick to my guns and only do 4 heaping tablespoons this time too. Oh, come on. Get that clip back on there. All right. And then you want to stir it up. You have to stir gently at first or you'll make a powder cloud, kind of like stirring your powdered sugar into something. You don't want to just go vigorous and end up making a mess. Plus, then you'd have to try to figure out how much you lost so that you could add it back in. And you want to mix it really well because you don't want to have all of your powdered marble on top. And it looks really white right now, but that, of course, is the glue. I love using this powdered marble for when I make my white gesso too, because it makes the gesso feel real silky. It feels, actually, if you get that on your hand, it feels real silky. Um, it really has a nice smooth texture, but it has enough tooth that you can draw or paint or whatever over the top of this paper real easily after this, and it protects the paper without making it white, which is what we want. Probably should have a bigger piece of paper here. I guess I'll just do 2. One that has no gesso and one that has gesso, because I want to show you different things you can do on top of it. So let me write on these. No gesso, gesso. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stir here a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to take some of this on my paintbrush. I'm just going to paint it on. See, I didn't even try this before I got on here to make sure that it was going to work well. I just went with it, hoping that my observations from last time would still hold true. All right, we're going to paint it on there. And then with the magic of the heat gun, we're going to dry it real quick. Okay, it feels pretty dry. Okay, here's this paper with no gesso. It feels pretty slick. This one's a little rougher, but you can't really tell much just by looking at them, much difference in the color of the page. And that's one of the cool things about the Clear Gesso, is that it doesn't really, the paper does feel sturdier, but it doesn't look any different really. Okay, so let me cover this so it doesn't dry out on me. Where's my paper towel? Here we go. Also, clean off the top or you glue it shut. Most of you who get gesso in something that's in a tub like this, you know that already, but just in case. Okay. Now then, I think I'm going to start out with um, just a little bit of cheap watercolor here because I've got some and it's easy. This is Artist Loft Vermilion. Let me find a watercolor brush. All right, here's a water brush. So I'm going to use this lid as my palette. Let's put a little bit of that on there. Let's squeeze a little water into it. Okay, now we're going to paint a little bit on here. And then we're going to paint a little bit on here. Now with the watercolor, the main thing you notice is how that soaks in. And it didn't bleed through. I'm kind of surprised. I expected it to bleed through. On this one, see how it bubbles up? So that it gives a different effect. Okay. That's still a little bit damp. I'm just going to pat off since it doesn't really soak in, it takes longer to dry, and I'm not in the mood to wait. Um, so there's a difference with watercolor. And you may like this, but on some papers, if you use too much water, it'll bleed through and mess up the other side, and the gesso protects it. But it also gives it more of the watercolor splotchy look. So you may or may not like that. And that's so that's that. Let's try some, just for kicks, let's try some watercolor pencils here. Let's use a green. And I'm just going to lightly color on it. This is where you can tell the real differences with the pencils. And you can't see as much. Right here, you can hardly see that at all. And you can actually see that there's green on here. And And now we'll use the water brush and see what we can get to happen with that watercolor pencil. Nothing much. There's the difference between the two. You can actually see that there is some watercolor pencil, water, and it blends and moves and everything on here. Now on this one, you can't really see anything. But it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be watercolor stuff that you use. We'll do some regular pencil in a minute. But I'm curious because I didn't have any gelato things back then, so I'm curious how that will work. So we'll just do a little bit here, and we'll use the pencil watercolor. Okay, that actually looks nice, but it's beginning to bleed through on the back. But I like that look. That's the nice thing about the gelatos. And that one maybe a little bit too. So it may not be, or I may not have put a heavy enough coat. Oh, well, over there, you can see. I don't know if you can see, but right here, you can tell I didn't coat it because it looks completely different than it does here where I did. So I didn't get close enough to the edge with my, and where I didn't coat it, it's coming through, but where I did get the gesso on it, it's not going through. So there's that. Let's try regular pencils just for kicks, because I never used it with regular pencils, but I've heard people talk about using Clear Gesso over their pages so that their colored pencils will show it better. So let me find my colored pencils. My other colored pencils are in the house, but I've got these out here, so we're going to use one of these. Let's use this red here. Okay. I'm just going to draw a little bit. Ooh, it's kind of pinky. And we'll do the same thing here. It definitely, I'm working a lot harder here trying to get this effect. So your colored pencils are definitely smoother and darker and prettier on here. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, the thing I'm really curious to find out about, because this is why I'm making it, is to see about painting on top of a black and white picture. And there's not a picture on here, but I was thinking about using acrylic paint and a glazing medium to paint so that it will be transparent like watercolor, but not be watercolor. So where I would have a little more control, maybe, hopefully. All right, let me find the glazing medium real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and clean this off so I can use this to mix my glazing medium with my paint. Okay. If I had something else out here, I would use that, but let's put a little bit of this glazing medium out here. Clean that off because it's basically glue. Okay. And what paint do I want to use? Let's just use a little bit of this. It's just craft paint, nothing special. And I don't know if this is what I'll use when I'm doing the little book that I'm wanting to. Well, that's not good. It's like a gloopy mess here. Let me get rid of that. Sorry, you'll have to deal with the gloop. Okay. Let's get a little brush and mix this up. And I may have put too much color for it to really be transparent. I haven't actually played with the glazing medium before. My daughter has used it quite a bit, but I haven't. So let's just put it on here and see. Oh wow, it really does make it transparent. Maybe even more transparent than I wanted. But I want to be able to paint over some a children's book that's just sketches. But I don't want to take the chance of it going through to the other side. So I thought that the glazing medium would work well on that. And it might have, on this paper, it might have worked okay, just like this. Interesting. Okay. So I have to learn how much paint to put in it to get the effect I want because wow, um, it really does make it transparent. That's really cool. Now on a paper towel, it's nice and pretty, bright. All right. Well, that's how you make clear gesso. And whoa, and you might want to use it. Um, but that's all I got to say right now. Y'all have a great night. Bless you. Bye bye.